can't explain his existence. It's impossible for an atheist to explain his conscious thought and to explain his actions. I was having a conversation with an alleged atheist earlier, and that was the crux of the conversation. I said, explain how you think, explain your consciousness, and explain how you make actions. And he said, my brain plays like a piano. There's someone who plays a piano, and it's a whole collection of neurons and signals that guide my actions. He gave an example that he's like an internal combustible engine, a car engine. Set it rolling, it keeps rolling. And I asked him, how does this explain his consciousness? He said, I don't know, he pushed that aside. He couldn't talk about that. But he just kept repeating that it's a system in process and it continues. Because when you're talking about conscious thought, you're talking about, it's not like a ball rolling. It comes with decisions. Move right or move left. Now, he said it's an entanglement of neurons, which is what we know the human brain is. But I broke it down for him. I say, we are talking about atoms. Neurons are made from atoms. Atoms are the building block of all existence, of which he said this is biology. So biology is just a word. I said, by saying it's an entanglement of neurons that somehow guide your consciousness and then your thoughts and then your actions, I'm saying if I take some Lego bricks and I build something up really complex, is that thing going to have that initiative to make decisions? When you talk about a car engine, you turn it on, combustible engine, it starts running. But you have to start that spark. So the question that we pose to atheists is, what's the spark? And how are you able to have conscious thought from side to side? We are made up of atoms. And even though we call ourselves living things, because we are organic, most of our elements we have organic compounds, carbon, hydrogen mainly. But that's the same thing you have in oil. When you're dead, it's the same carbon, hydrogen, organic compounds you have in oil. We are a combination of atoms. I do not know whether we can call atoms living. Can you call atoms living? An atom is just this, nucleus with a proton and neutron in that. Then you have an electron which floats around in orbit or zooms around in orbit with waves. And you can never pinpoint exactly where that electron is. So it's kind of funny. It's a particle that nobody has ever seen. They've measured its effects, its attributes, but nobody has ever actually seen an electron. So it's like belief in the electron is like belief in God, so to say, where people can prove the attributes and measure the attributes. You can see the laws of the world, the laws of the Big Bang, and say, these are the attributes of God. Who wrote the laws of the expansion, the laws that had to be obeyed to create a perfect world like we exist in? So you can measure the attributes of God, which for some of us who believe, that's God. But the electron now, going back to the atom, the electron dictates what happens to the atom. In fact, scientists have said that if you can predict the exact point in time and place where an electron will be for one of your atoms, you can use that to predict what that atom will do, and consequently use that to predict how that atom would influence the next atom to the next atom, and then you can predict life. You can predict what a person would do if you can find out exactly where an atom is at a point in time. But the question is, for the atheist who does not believe in God, and does not believe in a soul determining is, if you arrange those atoms together, which atom and how, which electron, because it starts from the electron, that's what determines what happens to the atom. How do you trigger that electron to make a certain motion in an atom, in a neuron, to trigger that neuron, and then for that neuron to affect other neurons and so on and so forth to bring about your thoughts and your action? What's the force? What brings about that initial movement in the electron, in the first electron, and then the atom, and then the whole complex network of neurons? There's no explanation for this other than a higher force, other than the existence of a soul. For instance, a person dies. You fix whatever got spoils in the brain. You replace those atoms. It doesn't come back to life. Or think of the most simple organism. Simple, very simple organism. Some bacteria, very, very simple, single cell. And it's dead. You replace the parts and try to trigger it back to life. I've not heard of that happening yet. So the question is, even if we arrange, like we can actually make a bacterial cell. You can make all those things. Okay? You can make the cell wall. You can make the DNA. You can make all that material. Why is it not alive? What brings about the electron bringing life? That's proof of God right there, because for the theist, it's simple. We are, as a poet, famous poet Rumi said, we are lions on a banner. We think we move, but it's God who moves us. Because something, someone, another force has to make those things move. Even though we call ourselves living things, there's nothing living about us. We are just vessels. Atoms are not alive. So what brings about life? And then what brings about conscious thought? We'll continue this conversation. This is Dr. Peregrine O'Brien. Thanks for watching.